So hello everyone at home, welcome to yet another episode of TopTenz. I'm your interim host, Karl Smallwood. Yes, that's my real name. Make some jokes about it in the comments if you want. We'll upvote the best one. But today we're talking about 10 modern myths everybody seems to believe. And as with all the videos here on TopTenz, this one is based on original scripts submitted to us by a member of our writing team. That member of our writing team this time being Ian40. Follow him on social media links below, but let's get to it. Well, actually no. I need to mention, but if you also like the video, you can like it, comment, subscribe. You might be thinking, Karl, you're saying that a little early in the video. Surely you should wait till the end. Well, normally we would, but analytics show that the earlier I say those three things, the more likely those three things are to happen. Weird, eh? Anyway, let's get to it. People want to believe the unbelievable, that truth is stranger than fiction is enticing because, well, we like weirdness, and when it's true weirdness, it's somehow more appealing. Unfortunately, and especially in the modern world, this has led to a proliferation of quirky and unbelievable modern myths and weird facts that are not really true at all. We may have even covered some in previous videos. If we have, let us know in the comments and we'll issue very mealy-mouthed apologies for doing so. You know, the YouTuber apology of like, well. That's a joke, by the way, but there is like a statistic out there that says like, you know, it's like every 10 years, like 30% of what we know or is taught in schools is disproved, or like more details are found out about it that make it like, you know, functionally untrue. Anyway, they're all really just lies that are trying to succeed based on our tendency to take things on faith or believe things that just, you know, sound true. For example, number 10. Most lottery winners end up broke and miserable. Have you ever heard that most lottery winners end up broke? Google it and you'll get millions of results. The National Endowment for Financial Education is often quoted as saying 70% of lottery winners go broke in just a few years. The horror. But have you ever backtracked that statistic? It's not true like at all, and the organisation had to issue a statement in 2018 saying that none of their research actually suggests this. It's just a case of someone taking, you know, a very long and boring article, taking one pertinent fact from it and misconstruing it into a headline that then gets shared by the telephone game of the internet. So do some lottery winners lose it all and end up miserable? Sure, why wouldn't they? Do most? No, why would they? And this all started in the 60s and 70s when the media began to intensely focus in on stories that had that miserable twist that the news loves. It's not really a story if someone wins $1 million and has a really happy life, but it is a story if they win and then lose everything in a year. Nearly all the media stories follow this pattern, picking the rare but juicy tales of misery and woe. Getting to some research, in the 1970s, a study showed that most lottery winners were happy. Who'd have thunk it? But headlines like "Instant Millionaire's Dream Becomes Nightmare for Some" set the negative tone. But actual research has shown that for the bulk of people who win the lottery, it makes their lives better. Again, who'd have thunk just giving people who need it millions of dollars would like make all their problems go away? Like having lots of money, it lets you live a largely stress-free life and do what you want to do, which is naturally going to make you happy and contented. And the studies seem to show that millionaires don't go bankrupt at a faster rate than the rest of us. But something I can speak to, because I did write an article a few years ago for Today I Found Out, is the difference between American lottery wins and British lottery wins. Because something that fascinated me is that American lottery winners largely just get given the money and get left to their own devices, which sounds fine, but a lot of lottery winners aren't really aware of what happens when you suddenly have, like, say, $10 million in your bank. There's a lot of things you need to take into account that they're not aware of, like taxes and fees and all that good stuff. And in Britain, things are very different. When you win the lottery, they generally bring you the big novelty check if you want it, alongside a financial advisor and a representative from your bank to walk you through the process of suddenly now being a multi-millionaire. And they have that person on hand for a couple of months or even a few years if you need it to walk you through the process of, like, you know, adjusting to your newfound wealth, which results in like American lottery winners going bankrupt at a slightly higher rate than British ones because they just don't realize they have to do things like pay taxes, or they'll buy like a big house and they're not realize they have to pay taxes and upkeep on that house. Don't think that article ever got made into a video. I think it's still in their archives and I wrote it 5 years ago. Get on it, David. Moving on. Number 9. Myth: most olive oil is fake. One of the biggest scams of the last decade, if you believe a lot of the online hype, is how much olive oil is fake. Google fake olive oil and you'll find an abundance of articles and blogs letting you know as much as 70% of the stuff is fraudulent. The FDA published peer-reviewed research in 2015 that showed 88 brands of extra virgin olive oil tested. They couldn't find any fakes. The North American Olive Oil Association, which for some reason exists, tested 200 brands per year in the independent labs overseen by organizations certified by the UN to ensure oil safety and quality. Their research showed that 98% of olive oil on American shelves is the real deal. So where did this fake story come from? Well, we can point the finger of blame squarely at the UC Davis Olive Center. This organization has been accused of pushing California olive oil. They released a report saying that 69% of imported oil failed to meet a sensory standard for tests for extra virgin olive oil. That means to them, it didn't taste like extra virgin olive oil, which if you'll notice is subjective. UC Davis later clarified and said the media was just misunderstanding their meaning. They never said 70% was fake or that it wasn't olive oil, just that to them it didn't meet their standards for extra virgin. And the fact that they just so happened to sell a competing product that they were pushing is completely irrelevant. Don't look too much into it, please. Number 8, myth: your brain stops developing at age 25. It's a commonly cited fact these days that your brain is fully developed by the time you turn 25. The number is used to address all kinds of situations, from like underage drinking or smoking may be bad for your health. They are in general, but yeah, to explaining why Leonardo DiCaprio stops dating women when they turn 25. Personally, I just like that Twitter post of just Leonardo DiCaprio doesn't want to date women who remember 9/11. That is a poor taste joke, but just that sent my sight into orbit when I saw that one. So MRI technology is at the forefront of the belief that 25 is your magic brain number. Scans of younger brains differed from those of older brains. The brains of 18 to 21-year-olds react to negative emotion more like younger teens than older people do, while white matter also increases as you age. Like, lots of things keep developing, and so it was decided that your brain keeps developing into your 20s, but the number 25 was never specifically specified in any of the research. So where did 25 come from? Well, at least one psychologist whose work has been used to bolster the 25 theory, but who never actually said 25 himself, suggests that maybe people picked it because it's just a nice sounding, it's a nice round number. In reality, brain charts that map development of the brain from over 100,000 participants, from a 115-day-old baby to a 100-year-old, shows that development occurs over our entire lives, just in different ways and at different speeds, with significant but by no means final development in those tentative early years. Essentially, you're always growing, always learning. Number 7, you can detox your body with supplements or diet. The detox market is valued at around $56 billion, billion with a B. So have no doubt that people out there are highly motivated to convince you that you're full of filth that they can help clean if you pay them enough. This can range from things like juice cleansers to various healthy food detox diets to pill and supplements that you can take that are meant to strip away the poisons or heavy metals or whatever tox you think you need detoxing from. Medically speaking, the idea of detoxing is complete nonsense. There's no such thing. Your liver, your kidneys and your lungs are in your body specifically to filter out things that would otherwise damage it, like alcohol or contaminants from the outside world. This is really all the detoxing you'll ever need, unless you need to go to a hospital for a drug overdose or need dialysis or something like that. There's no diet pill that can replicate the functions of an organ. Or there is like a machine that's very, very expensive. While it's true that some cleanse diets will help you lose weight, it's worth noting that this is mostly because they make you poop a lot thanks to the laxatives present within them. It may seem like toxins are seeping out of you, and I guess in a sense, they kind of are, and seeping might be the worst word used here. Other detox methods like foot pads that supposedly leach toxins from your flesh are straight up fraudulent and filled with substances that change colour when they get wet but dupe you into thinking they've absorbed toxins. Just drink plenty of water, eat lots of fruit and veg, and consume things like coffee, alcohol, and junk food in moderation, and you'll probably be fine. Number 6, urine is sterile. Survivalist Bear Grylls likes to drink his own piss, and probably far too frequently. You could arguably blame him for the pervasive modern myth that urine is sterile, since he literally said exactly that the first time he drank it on camera. But, like, what a legacy to have. Because I think Bear Grylls is a fascinating individual. Like, the guy, climbed Everest after he, broke his spine and, after falling out of a plane or something like that. But when you say Bear Grylls, 90% of people you mean the guy who drinks his own piss. It's like, okay, cool. That's his legacy, I suppose. So, urine is not sterile. As it travels out of your body, it's moving along from internal to external and will inevitably pick up bacteria. Also, even internally, healthy people still have bacteria in their urine. If you have an infection, then expect it to be that much worse. Before Grylls spread the urine drinking idea around, a doctor in the 50s set the stage for this false belief when he developed a test for UTIs. Under his method, a person with under 100,000 colony clusters of bacteria per milliliter tested negative for bacteria, so the urine was still potentially laden with bacteria, just not enough to count as having an infection, and that, in people's minds, meant it was sterile. Now it's time for a trademark Karl bonus fact, specifically about drinking pee. So, The late comedian Patrice O'Neal found out he had diabetes because of this. This is a true story, at least it's true as Patrice O'Neal would tell it on stage in his stand-up and in interviews and on podcasts and stuff. He just had a thing where he like pee. You know, don't judge, like, you know, like just whatever, cool, that's your thing, it's not for me. And just, he says that like he found out he had diabetes because his missus told him that his urine tastes like birthday cake. And when he went to the doctors, because this is kind of weird, they say, oh, you got diabetes. I don't know why I know that, but there you go, now you know it too. Number 5, you can get more done by multitasking. Sometime in the early 2000s, office culture became enamored with the idea of multitasking. The idea that you can perform several tasks at the same time. And if you were going on a job interview at that time, you absolutely wanted to point out to your prospective employer how good you were at multitasking. And the idea makes sense on paper. By focusing on multiple tasks simultaneously, you can get so much more done. But the reality is that it doesn't work this way. And the research really does back this up to the point where you aren't even really multitasking in the way that you think, as in doing 2 things at once. Your brain is doing one task, then stopping and starting a new task, then stopping and starting the old task. So essentially what you're really doing is just switching between 2 tasks really quickly. And while that can seem like, you know, you're getting 2 jobs done at once, the reality is that you're just doing both jobs slower and worse, because the act of switching from the task wastes, like, you know, that valuable brain power that you have and will just contribute more to fatigue. And the research again backs this up, showing that multitaskers take longer to do both tasks than a person just doing them one at a time. Also, multitaskers are chronically distracted, so they take longer to do jobs anyway, and they do them more poorly than they would have done otherwise, and they have trouble focusing on what they're doing anyway. So all in all, just if you have a job to do, just do that job. And I believe it's Hank Hill who once stated, don't half-arse 2 things, whole-arse 1 thing. That is a Hank Hill quote, right? I hope it is.
No.
Oh, 'cause I know the Homer Simpson one is, you don't quit your job.
Just go in every day and do it really half-assed.
That's the American way. Number 4, suicide rates increase during the holidays. For several years, there's been an oft-repeated idea that suicides spike during the holidays. Just go to social media and look back and you'll find thousands of posts dating back well over a decade in which people share this unquestioningly, like it's common knowledge. The reality is that there's no evidence to support the idea of a suicide spike during the holidays. In fact, in 2021, December and January had the lowest suicide rates of the year, and the highest spike was in August for some reason. And the myth has been one that people have been trying to fight for years because the media keeps publishing stories about it around the holiday. And the fear is that for people who genuinely are suffering from severe depression and are suicidal, they can find this false narrative supportive and it could create a contagious effect. For example, the Annenberg Public Policy Center has been trying to debunk the myth for years at this point and analyzes media coverage every holiday season. They note a continual perpetuation of the myth in media stories every holiday season, despite there being no actual evidence. Number 3. Alcatraz prison was just the worst. Everyone knows that Alcatraz was a nightmare prison, right? They made movies about it. It's surrounded by sharks on a rock in the ocean with no hope of escape. It was the worst of the worst, but most of that was just hype, as we actually talked about in a Geographics video on our sister channel, Geographics, so go check that out if it's live now. The idea of swimming to shore to escape the impossible is disproven pretty regularly. There's actually a triathlon called the Escape from Alcatraz Triathlon, big points for whoever named that one, in which participants have to swim the 1.5 miles from shore to the prison, and hundreds of people do it every single year. You just need to watch the water temperature. And if you're worried about sharks, that's a myth too, as sharks are rarely, if ever, seen in the San Francisco Bay, and when they are, they're the kind of sharks that don't regularly attack humans, and sharks in general also don't attack humans. That's another myth, but that one's been pretty well debunked by now, so it's not on this list, but yeah. So of greater importance, though, is how the prison itself was run. Alcatraz was well lined by many prisoners to the point many requested transfers to it. And one of the many reasons why is that the prison had a 1 prisoner per cell policy, which meant privacy not found in other prisons was found in Alcatraz. Also, the food in Alcatraz was reportedly quite abundant and of good quality because the warden thought that a well-fed prison population was less likely to riot. For example, inmates could enjoy chili dogs, fried pork chops, candied sweet potatoes, hot apple pie with ice cream, and many other things. Prisoners also had access to a huge library of some 15,000 books, 75 magazine subscriptions, and a monthly movie night. Also worth noting that Alcatraz was one of the few prisons in the prison system at the time that would allow prisoners to take hot showers, and this, in addition to just being kind of nice for the prisoners, I guess, was a deliberate ploy on behalf of the warders, because they thought that if prisoners got too used to having cold showers, they'd be more likely able to brave the cold waters of surrounding Alcatraz and swim to shore. So, yeah. It was nice for the prisoners, but also a secret dick move to stop them escaping. Moving on. Number 2. The Mantis shrimp has superhuman vision. The internet loves its some quirky animal stories, and some years ago it discovered the Mantis shrimp, and thus was born a rumour that this tiny animal had mind-blowing vision. Humans can see 3 types of colours thanks to the cones in our eyes: red, blue, and green. Then we can break those down into all kinds of shades. Dogs have 2 cones, which lets them see blue and yellow. But the Mantis shrimp, they've got 12 cones. So the internet interpreted this as the mantis shrimp having access to a range of colours we can't possibly imagine, like a Lovecraft story or something. Research on how the mantis shrimp see show that the way their photoreceptors work differs from our own. The range of colours they can see is not otherworldly, but instead they are likely able to see and distinguish individual colours faster than the human brain, which aids in distinguishing prey. But they actually have worse colour vision overall than we do, so suck on that, mantis shrimp. Number 1. Myth. Rhino horns are poached to be sold as aphrodisiacs. Animal poaching is a disgusting trade no matter the reasons for it, but different animals are definitely hunted for different reasons. Elephants are often killed for their ivory, but rhinos are poached for their horns as well. And unlike elephants, a rhino horn is just keratin like human hair and fingernails and does not have the same inherent value as something like ivory. The horns have long been used in traditional Chinese medicine, even though they have no real scientific or medical value. They're also prized for their decorative purposes, maybe jewelry or even cups carved from them. There's also been a quite pervasive myth in the West that they are used as an aphrodisiac. And here's where we have to tell you that there's never been a market for rhino horn as an aphrodisiac, or at least not traditionally. That said, because the myth is so well known, it actually became kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, with some people in places like Vietnam actually wanting rhino horn for that reason, meaning that the myth has inadvertently perpetuated the poaching of actual rhinos because it's so pervasive, which is just kind of a nut punch to end on, but stories don't always have happy endings. And if you found this video educational, informative, and entertaining, let us know in the comments below. Leave a like and subscribe for more. I certainly found the script to be all 3 of those things, and if you did too, go follow the writer on social medias at those links you can find alongside my own. But to close, as I like to say to the people who stick around to the end, go out there and have the day you deserve. Cheers. It's cold now.